Yep,
All
we're
right.
now live. Yeah, cool. Okay, I just want to do that, and then now I'm focused, and all my focus is here now.
And now I'm giggling and I've got a vein popping out of my forehead. Well, welcome, Kevin.
Oh, the mic went out. The mic went out. I don't hear it. I don't hear anything on your end, and it's not my end. Let me hear mic audio. Nope. I just did a test on my.
We're
Nope. I
good.
hear you. There, I hear you again. There you go.
Hi. Well, welcome to the Simp Life. This is this is going to be fun. We're
It,
starting off on a fine note. It's fine.
oh yeah, totally.
Well, I wanted to first tell the listeners how I found you. So, just to let you know, you're not shadow banned because I literally found you, I think it was 3 days ago on TikTok while I was scrolling through my For You page. And I came across your video of you with the green screen and the map with the GPS coordinates, and you were explaining your story. And I was just absolutely blown away by it. And I wanted to invite you here on the podcast so that we can talk about your experience, not only what you went through, but gosh, I mean, like, honestly, the fact that you have to keep telling your story over and over again. And I can't even imagine how stressful and how exhausting it is, especially with like the legitimate things that are going on. So that's why I have you here. Welcome to the Simp Life.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I'm glad that you came across that. I'm happy that I'm not shadow banned, or at least so shadow banned that it's keeping people from seeing me and the story getting out.
Oh,
Uh,
absolutely. So, what I saw was that you were trafficked. And to be honest, I did not watch every single video because I am ADHD. And the fact that you're here on the podcast, I'm excited to actually get the full story. But first, I wanted to ask you just like, where are you from? Where you live in?
where I'm from originally, I was born at the Los Angeles, at the UCLA Medical Center, and then I was raised for the first 7 years of my life in San Diego, and then we moved to Orange County, Huntington Beach, and I've lived so many places now, but I'm currently staying in Oregon.
Okay. But, and all this had happened, I think you had said Huntington Beach, right? This.
A lot of it, like there's if we want to speak about just what happened to me while I was underage, the vast majority happened in Orange County, LA County, and San Diego
Okay.
County. But there's a lot. There's a lot that happened outside of California. Like, I mean, literally most places I've been, there's a story of either trafficking or framing or someone ending up dead. Um,
You have a movie life.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I
I,
have a producer in case if you ever need to like make a movie. He's a very famous producer that I know. So maybe we can make that work or a book or something because just the little that I've heard from you, you have been through so much. When did you start your TikTok and decide to put all this out there in the public?
well, I made my TikTok about 2 months ago. I've been putting this all out into the public for years, depending on like I've been mentioning stuff since I was like, the small things, not knowing like what the problem was when I was a kid, like just like trying to mention stuff to teachers or like little stuff, like nothing in particular. But then in group homes, there was more like agency and understanding to where what was happening to me. And then it evolved into even more stuff when I was like 22. And then I've tried to get stuff out through like Facebook and even MySpace from back in the day, but especially using Facebook. And everything gets deleted, or my accounts get hacked, or different things happened. and nothing came of it. And I recently left to seek asylum in Canada, and then I'll pull up that paperwork right here, just it's easy to show. But this is the paperwork I got from seeking asylum or attempting to. This got sabotaged, which can be explained and looked into in and of itself. Um, but oh shoot, I lost my train of thought. Can you ask your
Oh, you're
question?
fine. No, so you started the TikTok a couple months ago, but before that, you weren't. You were trying to put your voice out, but it kept getting deleted. And I think what people need to understand when we tell your story, or when you tell your story, you're going to talk about the involvement of the government. And when it does come to the government, and when it does come to things like trafficking and these awful things, there are ways to create evidence, fake evidence, I'm doing the finger quotes, against the person that is actually coming forward. And there's also ways to delete the evidence from the person. And so I think people need to be aware of how just because it looks like something doesn't mean it is something. And that's why I wanted to have you on.
Yeah,
I
thank you.
Yeah, it's really important that things change in our world now that we have social media to be able to speak up and change things. And just because somebody might have, there might be certain things saying the opposite of what you're saying doesn't mean that it's going against you. It almost, to me, it seems like it's going for you. Like they're working really hard to cover up what has happened. Is
Yeah,
that?
that yeah, no, very very true. Like even just on my TikTok live earlier today, someone was posting saying that like no one's supporting any of my claims. Everyone that I've mentioned has came forward to my brother exclusively and told him otherwise. Which is these, why wouldn't these people just come forward publicly? And then also I have tons of pictures that I've posted up on live as well as my most recent videos on both of my larger accounts, Trafficked TikTok and Greater Global Goals. Um, there's photos of tons of people, either specifically with my story, like saying like, yeah, this has happened. Like we know, like this happened. I was there, or we've experienced the same stuff at the same facilities with the same people, like group homes. And then there's people just saying like, oh, I have a similar experience, but in the same area, but not with the same people, and not with. And I don't know you personally, but like there's like all different levels of people corroborating what I have to say with different things. Um,
Well, I think what really struck me about you, that makes me believe you more, is that even when you go live and people are asking questions, you not only acknowledge all the questions or comments, but you also are trying really hard to get people to actually like investigate themselves. Like you're not trying to like just stick to your story and like push everything away. You're really trying, like you're almost begging for people to really look into this. And to me, somebody who is a liar wouldn't do those things. You really do seem like a victim of gaslighting, and that's why, I mean, I have no fear of what will happen to me. I've My only child passed away. I've lost everything in my everything in my life so many times, and I'm a protector and I'm a fighter. So I'm all about, like, I don't give a shit. Fucking come find me. I'm on a tiny little island. Like, what are you gonna
yeah,
do? You know what I mean? Like, so I'm all for this. I'm all for supporting this, and that's why I did want to go live on so many different platforms while we talk, so that way it's out there as many times as possible.
yeah, no, thank you. Because yeah, no, the gaslighting is over. Like it's not just recently. Like I've been dealing with gaslighting my entire life. And then yeah, just like pushing people to try and look into certain things themselves. I'm aware going into this that people are going to be um, throwing up red herrings, like false statements, etc. I'm also as aware that like some of the stuff that I said, I was gaslit so many times that I'm probably going to say stuff like I've mentioned that some people were passed away, but I could be gaslit. They might be alive. I may try to make that stuff clear, just
It's
to yeah.
Yeah, it's really frustrating when people want people to be absolutely perfect with a perfect background and never mess up anything that they say. And if you do, all of a sudden everything you say has is going to go out the door, which is another form of gaslighting in itself because we're human beings, especially someone who's been through a horribly traumatic experience with nobody in your family or in your personal world backing you up, that it's going to trip you up sometimes, and the confusion. And I'm shocked and so proud of you and so impressed with you on how often you post videos and how often you go live and really do overcome your internal battles in order to get this out. And like I
Yeah.
just I just want to say that.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, because what I want to do, like, I want to have my dog back and just sit and watch TV and play video games and just kind of like chill out. But I can't. Like, there's everything that's not only like everything that's happened to me. I feel obligated with talking with bringing it out, and that's just the goal is to make sure that not only I mean, getting justice is a perk. The real goal is to make sure that the people that are still running these group home facilities, that framed people, that allowed children to get sexually assaulted, including one girl got pregnant, according to a comment that was left on my feed at the same group home. The important thing is that these people aren't not only allowed in the facility anymore, but they face justice. And uh, Yeah, and everyone that's helped these people keep this stuff quiet face
Yeah.
justice and everything. There's so many reasons to try and speak out about it.
Well, we're definitely going to get into your story, but before that, I wanted to ask you what release do you have? Like after you do the live feeds or after you do the videos, do you have a way of relaxing? Do you have any opportunity to release all this?
No,
Like,
like I mean, I do things that like, I'll go on my phone and I'll play like a game for 5 minutes, and then I'll just like stare at the ceiling for like an hour, and I'll be like, oh, like I needed to move my game character or something. Or like I used to watch like TV and YouTube and stuff and like just watch TV like everyone else. And now I just kind of have it on, and I've not like I'm watching it like it's there, but like I'm not absorbing anything. I'm not paying attention to it. It's really hard for me to like get to a point where I can relax and enjoy myself and kind of think uh, clearly,
yeah.
absent of everything else.
It reminds me of soldiers that are deployed and the fact that their stress level and their adrenaline level always is at, they call it the low ready. You know what I mean? Where like you're always like red, like you always have to be in this zone and you can never relax because if you relax, you can get hurt. And in your case, like you really can get hurt. Like
Yeah,
you're trying to leave the country in order to keep yourself safe.
precisely.
Okay, yeah, I can't even imagine. And I'm just in awe of you and everything you're going through. And I really just want to let you know how many people are just absolutely appreciative of everything you're doing. You're kind of like the whipping boy or the martyr, but like it is for a good cause. And I've been through so much. My dad killing himself, my daughter dying, being raped and beaten and held for 2 days. I've had a lot of stuff happen to me, but I don't see it as a negative. I see it as, well, maybe the universe sees me as strong enough soul wise to be able to do this so that I can talk to people and empathize with them and connect with them. You know what I mean? And that's how you remind me. Like, it fucking sucks. And why you or why me? And we don't deserve this. But, like, if anyone, we're going to take care of the world. You know what I mean? We're going to be the
Yeah.
protectors and the freaking Captain Americas.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's important. Just yeah, it's important to speak out, and it's important to fight for other people's rights, because I have a philosophy that whatever, even if you don't, gosh, how do I say, regardless of your position on human rights, by our actions, we are propelling human rights towards a direction with every single thing that individuals do. And so knowing that, we gotta like I want to make sure my actions generally consist of propelling human rights into the direction of protecting uh, and autonomy, like self autonomy, protecting those
Yeah.
who are underage, and make sure that they have the opportunities that people are supposed to have in the United States and people are generally supposed to have in like all over the world, like the ability to just have experiences, like to experience normal human interactions, relationships, job opportunities, for like career paths, so on and so forth. Like there's a lot of stuff that people that huge aspects of people don't have any sort of opportunity to even seek out because of the systemic issues within social services or within law enforcement. And a lot of these things are interconnected.
Right
Uh,
on. What sign are you? I know that's totally off topic, but
oh, sure. No, that's fine. I want to, while I don't mind answering that question, I do want to say that, like, I'm not a metaphysical person. I'm pretty scientifically tuned to stuff, like, at least my perspective is.
I
But
have Neil deGrasse Tyson tattooed on me,
oh,
so I'm
cool.
right there with you.
Yeah, yeah. I do know my sign because I have met a lot of people that talk about astrology, but I'm a Sagittarius Capricorn. But
Okay. Okay.
out of curiosity,
I
what's your sign if you don't mind me asking?
I'm a Pisces.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I'm a very empathetic person and yeah, a feeler, I guess you could say, whatever.
Yeah.
A
Well,
dreamer.
yeah. I think everyone is. I think again, like I don't adhere to the astrology. I think it's fun to look into, but I agree that uh yeah, it's interesting and whatnot. Sorry. I don't want to get too
No,
fixated
I just
on
noticed
that
my
topic.
face is
Sorry.
all actually all red because I turned my air conditioning off. I live in Key West. I think I mentioned that yesterday. I'm like, I'm getting a little hot. Okay. So, Kevin, I know that in your videos you start out, you let us know your birth date and where you're from. So if I don't, since I haven't heard your entire story, where do we start? Like, even, like where do we start?
I mean, it depends. Like when you asked me earlier where I was from, it literally starts there. Like the gaslighting that I received started there. My mom,
Okay.
and this is, and because I've heard different stories from my aunt and my mother. My mom said that I was born 2 months early and that I was so small I could fit into the palm of her hand. I almost died, and she almost supposedly died, and she decided that she wanted to live because, like, I bent my head back and looked at her, kind of thing. I don't know. I don't think it's true because my aunt Veronica, who is also not a very good person, but she was telling me that that never happened. Like she's like, and she is a nurse, but she's like, I'm a nurse. I was there when you were born. You weren't born 2 months early. You weren't like you know, I'm 5'2" right now, but like I wasn't overly uniquely small for a newborn.
Right.
And so one of those two people are gaslighting me. Um, and so that's kind of one aspect of where it starts. But then there's the story that I posted up online, which is when I want to say two. I didn't have like a tag on me, but like when I was pretty much two, I remember walking into an apartment. There was a person sitting in a reclining chair. Chair was facing to my right, like he was facing to my right. There was a couch on the other side of him. My mom walked in. She sat on the couch. The guy said that my mom had to have me sit on his lap because he wasn't allowed to ask me because then he would be responsible. And that's one of the themes that, as I tell my stories, for some things is that I'll be repeating that is that these people have these weird loopholes that make them think that they're not responsible.
Right.
One of which was in my 20s, the person that sexually assaulted me in that apartment ended up being the lead investigating officer in my trafficking case. He also said he wasn't responsible because they made him take Vicodin and because he wasn't really into it and that he was being done against his will. So because they wanted to take pictures of him with kids to keep him quiet, that that because that he didn't want to take the Vicodin and he wasn't into it and he was forced to do it, that he's not responsible. He even said it was my fault for sitting on his lap. Um, that's
How
just
dare you sit?
yeah, yeah. And that's just one of a million. That's just one of a million different things that me and this particular person have spoken about. And which I don't know if people, I've not iterated this many times, but there are people associated within this group that are way worse, in my opinion, than Garrett Cormier. I don't know his last name, but his first name is Jeff. And this person is like, there's and from reasons I've not met this person before. I've seen him and I know what he looks like, and I believe I've met him in person once, because there's again gaslighting, etc. But through conversations, I mean hours and hours and hours of conversations, uh, this person Jeff's logic and his demeanor and everything is just so askew and just like I don't know, the guy like horrible people, like the worst. Like I don't like saying people are horrible. I like to like I generally get mad at situations and not people because I think situations nurture people to become how they are. Uh, but this guy really tests my philosophy because
Yeah.
he's just like. I mean, every level. Like, I mean, somehow, I mean, we're talking about serious stuff about me literally just getting sexually assaulted by Garrett Cormier. The person that I'm referring to is leagues worse. But to keep it simple, it's hard to explain. But yeah, we can go through the stories chronologically or whatever. But I don't want. It's hard to explain, but to start with there for future podcasts or something, I just want to say that yeah, Jeff is horrible, way worse than a lot of the other people. But yeah,
One of the things that you had mentioned, I don't remember if it was live or if it was in one of your videos, but and I think it's very important for people to understand when people think of someone that's trafficked, they think of somebody being kidnapped and then held against their will, and there's I don't even know how to say it. Kidnapped, held against their will in some little room, and then people come in and use that person. But the reality of it is that it's not like that. They just gaslight you, they threaten you. Things can, from what you explained, things can be done against you that keeps you in the situation. Plus, where do you go? Right? So,
yeah,
can you explain that a little bit so that people understand that? We need to take the movie view of trafficking away and really put the reality of it that it is here in our neighborhood at any moment, and you could be seeing these kids at the grocery store, right, or at school.
yeah. Like what I've explained in like yeah, a couple of my videos, and to explain again here is yeah, trafficking isn't like from my experiences. There's no tunnels. There's no like you go into like a room and like kids are caged up like crawling at the fences or whatever. Like it's very much like you live a normal life. You might be in social services, you might be with a foster family, you might be with your regular family, someone in your family. It might be just one person in your family that is involved in manipulating everyone else to kind of do things. It might be your entire family, or like the like a larger aspect of the family. But it's you going to school, living like a seemingly normal life from the outside, but getting gaslit and messed with in the inside. Like having for me, it was a lot of my having my academic life sabotaged. Um, like in elementary school, middle school, high school, just like various things. My mom trying to get me held back, or my mom successfully got me put into special ed, which I've been able to refute through comments about the legitimacy behind that that I've posted up on my TikTok. um, so yeah, it's gaslighting, it's sabotage of academia, it's I mean, it's just a million. It's just you're just normal, like seemingly normal stuff, and people just taking advantage of um, their positions, or people like that allow themselves or allow their children, etc., to be used. Um,
And in your case, it was your mother who brought you into this.
yeah, my mom brought me into this. She was brought into this though too. Was given a picture. There's two conflicting stories. I was shown a picture of my mother when she was like 12 on my grandfather's lap, who is my mom's adoptive father. Supposedly he was like there. Like I was shown this picture and shown like see like everyone has to do it. Everyone has to do their own thing that's like everyone has to submit themselves in some way, essentially is what I mean. um like they're showing me a picture of my mother like your mom did it, so you have to do it too, don't feel so bad kind of thing.
So I
uh,
think what people need to understand is that it's from an outsider's point of view, it seems insane. But when you've been raised and conditioned to it, that's your world. That's
Hmm.
your reality.
Yeah, like I was just, I mean, me and my brother were also raised very differently. Like my brother knew more. My brother was used to like go outside and interact with people, to like frame people, and to also disassociate me and him from each other. Because there's always been a big pull to keep me and my brother separated. We were separated when I was in Orangewood. When we were both in Orangewood, we were separated right away. In CRF group homes, we were separated, and it's just a way to keep, like who knows what really happened? Because at the time, my brother might have spoken out for me, um, and so like yeah, there's so many different ways. I lost track of what you last said. I don't know if you don't mind repeating yourself again too.
I might have lost track of what I said too.
Okay.
No, I think I was saying that on for outsiders, for someone like me and someone like just I don't want to say normal people, but in a normal world, this seems so crazy that it's so obvious. But you were conditioned, like you said, your mom was might have been conditioned from what it sounds like that this is the world that you live in. So, like, what other reality as a child growing up into it do you have? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, no, there's one thing I want to help with the perspective of. It's not like that my mom didn't know that it was wrong, or that my brother didn't know that what was
Right.
wrong, or that like when I realized what was happening that I didn't know what was wrong. And we like everyone knows what's wrong. There's just so many people in on it that like why would you risk your life for literally making no headway? Like you're just going to
Okay.
ruin your life, get no one in trouble, and get either like thrown in a mental institution, like Chris Tagg, who's someone that I know that was put in a mental institution because I traveled with him, and he was saying that he thought I was FBI at one point even, uh, because of like the stuff that was happening. And so it's not unusual for these people to manipulate people in a variety of different ways. And then again, like there's plenty of famous people or people that aren't famous that have had events happen that either come speak out, or an event happens where one woman uh, ended the life of the person that was trafficking her, and then she got life in prison. And so there's so much protecting traffickers, like actively protecting traffickers, like either through some laws or just a lot of underhanded criminal activity being maintained by people in law enforcement or in organizational positions that are gatekeepers. And that's one of my biggest things. I'm very anti-gatekeeper. That I feel that they're all either actively criminals or pretend, or they're unknowingly being like doing criminal acts. Because being like, you shouldn't have a gatekeeper for journalism. You shouldn't have a gatekeeper for justice, for reporting criminal acts. Like, yeah. Sorry, yeah. Keep on going. I don't know if I
You're
fully answered
fine.
that.
You're fine. Okay, so we've talked a lot on the outside of it, but I do want to talk about the actual experience. And for me, because of my ADHD, chronological is the best way for me to understand it. But you could definitely jump around if need be, and I'll try to keep up with you. But so when you said it was around 2 years old that it started,
Correct.
and you, from what I understand, it was your mother who got you into it. And
Right.
my verbiage is shitty as hell. And we can swear, by the way.
I,
It's
I
perfectly okay.
I might a little bit. I generally am not much of a person that curses, but I do find myself occasionally letting one slip out.
Yeah. Um, so pretend like this is, I guess, a TikTok video, and one of your first ones where you introduced yourself and you said where you were born, and how your mom, was it the police department too?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
said,
No, there's two police officers, particularly Tim and Brian. I don't recall their last names at the top of my head right now. I know many people that know these officers, including Angela Reedy. who's one of the people that was trafficked. I'm not sure if she'll speak out, but one person, that's one thing that's important to ask her is about Michelle. Um, and to really pressure these people to speak out, and that like they're aiding for them not speaking out. It's an accomplice to the crime that's happening to not only them and to other people around the same time, but also those who come after. That's my, I hope that becomes more of a common opinion. But you said that why don't I kind of start my story how I would on one of my TikTok videos?
or at least chronologically, so that I can understand. It's a lot. It really is, and I don't expect you to go into all of it. But as a newcomer to your story, I really wanted to wait and hear it from you, the best you could, of how it kind of began. I know that there was stuff about the group home, and then Huntington Beach. There was a girl that's dead too. And if we could just maybe start at the beginning, and if I have questions, I'll throw them in.
Sure. Well, I already mentioned the first story of when I was taken into the apartment in San Diego. That's like the first thing I remember. And one thing I wanted to address on that is some people say that it's not possible for someone to remember an event that happened before one was like five. And I wanted to mention that the thing that they're referring to is called infantile amnesia. And infantile amnesia is something that affects most people. Most people who grow up have infantile amnesia, where they do not remember the things that happened to them in their life. But there are things that can make people, either through just chance of someone remembering things before they were two or so, and then there's also traumatic events, which can um, assist you in remembering things that happened when you were young. And so the infantile amnesia is one thing that I just wanted to, throw to the wayside for people to get past that in their minds. Um, so yeah, I guess the story that I'll start with, I remember going to another apartment in San Diego. Supposedly it was a friend of my mom's. I walked in, and like it was an apartment. I remember seeing a lot of wood, like a lot of like brown, like it was all like, instead of like my apartment's white, like white walls, it was just like wood, like I would say like pine wood interior kind of thing. And it was the first apartment I've ever been to that had a window on the roof, like what do you call it, sunlight kind of thing. I thought that was really really cool. And then my mom and the guy and me watched When Harry Met Sally in his bedroom. And then the guy said, "I don't feel comfortable with me." I'm paraphrasing, but I don't feel comfortable with him sleeping in here with us. And then I fell asleep on the couch. And then I remember my mom waking me up. She brought me into the guy's bedroom while he was sleeping, removed the blanket from his legs, pushed my face into his crotch, grabbed my jaw and my head, and like used me as a nutcracker. As soon as he woke up swinging and he punched my face. That's why my nose is crooked right now. He woke up swinging, punched my face. As soon as that happened, my mom just thought it was the funniest thing, and he's like, "Why are you laughing?" Something like that. And then I forget, he said something else, and then the cops were already there. Like, we're already there, and then I just remember him saying like like, "Why did this happen to me?" or something like, "Why is this happening to me?" Um, like, "Why are you doing this?" Like, he got framed for doing nothing. Um, so that's one of many many things to look for that people to look into a little bit. Um, why is my face crooked? um, but let's see. That's the first story I have. Another thing that comes to mind. There's a lot of minor stuff that comes to mind, like small stuff. I remember my mom keeping me in diapers a lot longer than I wanted to. I remember telling my mom like I don't need diapers, and she made me wear diapers around a bunch of people. I remember my mom had me start school late. I was at least I was late to school, like in my elementary school. I remember that much. And then, gosh,
What made you end up going into the group home?
oh yeah, the group home was relatively much later. It was when I was about 11. Me and my mom and my brother were living in Schaefer Circle in Huntington Beach, California. My mom had Rob Campbell come over, and I walked out of the bedroom, and Rob Campbell and my mom were speaking, and he said, "Once you do this, there's no going back." And then he tried to offer my mom like $600. I specifically remember $600, and then he said like he's going to remember me or something, which was weird since I used to go over to this guy's house, uh, and then shortly after that, me and my mom and my brother moved to Westminster. But then shortly after that, my mom took us to a parking lot in the middle of the night to drop us off with me and my brother at our dad's. And then my dad got arrested for either I've heard multiple different things, either a child abandonment with somehow abandoning me and my brother, or child kidnapping. And that's what I understood is that my mom set him up for kidnapping us, even though that never happened. But then through that event is why me and my brother got put into social services, and then I ended up getting released back to my mother, which is where shortly after that my mom fed me intestine. She fed me a person. At least they said it was a person, and everything around the event during it's like eaten I've cooked food. I've had friends and family that have had big meals. I know what turkey in the oven smells like. I know what beef, steak, deer, like I know what all this stuff smells like in the oven. The neighbor came over panicking, asking where I was. Supposedly, and I know remember where this place was. Supposedly, her son was taken to social services because she found out that my mom was cooking fucking human. Sorry for cursing, but yeah, I know what meat tastes like. I know what texture tastes like. I remember this stuff pretty well. Like the meat, like I took 2 bites and I was like, oh, I don't want to eat any more of this. My mom was like trying to force me to eat it,
Was
and
your mom eating it?
no, my mom didn't eat it. My mom just made like it was like it looked like someone's ass, like on a slab of meat, like one ass cheek, and then my mom set it on the dining room, not the dining room table, the coffee table in the living room, and then she's like, Eat this." I was like, "I don't want it." Like I'm like something like, "I don't want it." She's like, "I'm your mother. Do what I say," kind of thing. And I take 2 bites of it, and then I just go to the bathroom and start trying to peel these like grossest like thread, like chunky thread is just like the best way I can kind of phrase it.
Yeah,
And just
yeah.
like shaking that from my mouth and just being like, "That was weird. I don't know what that was. I don't want to eat that anymore."
How old were you?
13 at the oldest. I wasn't
For
14 yet.
for the
Human.
how do you think she got it?
Well, just before that, like during that same day, this guy came over, and this is just for descriptive purposes. This very muscular man came over, and came in. He was. This is reasoning. He was of African American descent. He came in to fix the rotary phone. He left, and then I mentioned to my mom, I was like, "You should date him." And then my mom said, "After all that hard work, you're still not racist." And just because like they've been trying to say that I was racist through many years. One time they drew a swastika on my forehead. Uh, which I mean, I'm like I had a dog named Jojo. I had a dog named Karma. I read The Prophet by Khalil Gibran. I'm very well into martial arts. Uh, I don't know. I want to see the like I want to travel the world. I'm not racist at all, and this is just a perception in which they've tried to
Yeah.
push onto me, among other things. Like my mom would force me and my brother for weeks to watch I Know What You Did Last Summer and Scream because she was trying to train us to become murderers. Like,
But to go back to the eating the dead person, that's like pretty intense. Where do you think she actually got it?
well, the guy that came over to fix the phone gave it to her. And I don't know where he acquired it from, but whoever,
Oh my gosh.
I could speculate. Like, all I can do is speculate. Like,
Yeah.
saying like, oh well, like obviously if these people are this connected, they're probably not like connected well enough to find a body or to kill someone and then to hide the body and then use body parts for whatever weird shit they use body parts for. Uh,
Jeez. So you were the only one forced to eat this
as
human.
far my brother didn't get released from social services. He was busy
Right.
still being molested in group homes because they didn't want to release him because he was bad, but wasn't the case. So I don't know if my brother ever had to eat anything like this ever. There's also a few events that like click in my mind of stuff that could have been odd. Like I remember eating what supposedly was shark once, and to me it's always stuck in my mind as really odd. but I can't remember details. So I don't want to say like that was human
Right.
too, but it makes me think in the back of my mind that that could have been part of it.
Have you ever tried going through what is it called? Like hypnotherapy or is it EMDR? Is it
I've heard of
ED?
EMDR and hypnotherapy. I'm not opposed. Have high value towards mental health, and I respect the practice of therapy. Um, I have a lot of hesitation with putting my autonomy into the hands
Yeah.
of someone that could be incredibly corrupt.
Yeah.
Because these are individual people, you know, and it's a there's no point in gambling with my life, trying to
Yeah. Now that
put my
you've got your freedom and
yeah.
your right, I get that actually. That makes 100% sense.
If
So these memories of yours have you always had them, or during time you start remembering more and more?
Most of this stuff I've always remembered really well, really clearly, especially when I first got picked up when I was like 22 or so. Garrett Cormier had a state patrol pick me up. The guy was like, "Hey, there's a person who works for the FBI that's in California. He wants to ask you some questions about some stuff that may or may not have happened when you were younger. Do you mind hopping in my patrol car and I'll drive you wherever you need to go? And as we're driving, this guy's going to ask you questions, and then let's just go from there." And this happened many, many more times, getting picked up and answering questions for the investigating officer. And I just told him everything. Like I've had it all so clearly in my mind, and I could say it very easily, and like things that may or may not be important, etc. Super smooth and easy. It was only within the last like 6 years where it's become like more PTSD, like "Ah, I don't want to think about that" kind of thing. Um, I used to not have that problem
So
beforehand.
when you got picked up to be asked these questions, it wasn't in a positive. It was made to look like it was to help you, but it
Correct.
wasn't. Okay, so it was really just to see what you remembered and what they needed to fuck you up with, or something. It was
Yeah,
used against you.
it was to use against me, and to also find the people that I've mentioned that would remember stuff, and then to
Gotcha.
target them. And that's one thing why I've mentioned Zeb and Yerky, because there's a lot of small stuff that people could mention that to them does not mean anything, but it directly goes against what other people have stated, or it shows a theme.
So
And
they're
I
trying to cover their asses.
Yeah, yeah. They specifically, that's one thing I was concerned about Zeb and Yerky, because they specifically told me that they were going to target them because of what I mentioned about them. The same thing with many, many other people. They told me for years, one person named Kimberly Barron, they told me for years that they've been bringing her into this room, which I'll make a video of this soon. This apartment that like her and a bunch of my friends were supposedly crying because the people that were trafficking me were threatening them, which is I'm pretty sure was all gaslighting, or 99% gaslighting. Um, but there's just yeah, there's all of this just manipulation, trying to figure out where people are so they can cover stuff up if they need to. And I want to also state that the state patrol officer that did pick me up, I don't believe that he was under the impression that this was happening. There's a lot
Got
of
you.
people during this process of me being picked up that had no idea that it was happening, many of which tried to help me, some of which were criminally involved and were trying to cover it up, but many of which weren't. And it's just the position in which these people had, which allowed them to cover this up and to get people on their side in different precincts, etc., that we're happy to assist them in this, because protect your own mentality.
Oh yeah, is one of those people the person you mentioned in one of your videos? I think you said somebody at your school, a principal or somebody.
Yes, Mr. Glasser, which I don't know if this is his first name. I recently got this sent to me, but supposedly his first name is Clyde. He was framed, but now I'm hearing different stories of stuff. But it's not like people have to take my word or even his family's word. There's many kids that were there. I haven't spoken to his family, but that would be a really good place to start, to speak to his family, see what they say, to speak to the kids that were also in school at this time and see what they say. And then also there was a receptionist that specifically called out my mom, saying that I was going to remember everything one day. Um, that receptionist is a person of interest to look into and ask her what she remembers, etc. Like, it's not like I'm saying stuff and there's nothing like there's like, "Yeah, let's just take my word for it" or something. There's plenty of things to look into, times like times 1,000, just endlessly. I don't know if that
So,
answered your question. Sorry.
well, no, that's okay. The principal, what had happened? Did you go to him and talk to him, or did he notice things that weren't okay?
Well, I was being made fun of for being short, and then I went into. He called me into his office. I don't remember exactly how it happened. If I asked if the teacher saw something and asked me to go to his office or something or what, but like I was called into his office. He had me sit down. And he's like, "Hey, like, have you thought of talking to," I'm paraphrasing, "have you thought of talking to your mom about growth hormones? My son or nephew or something was really short, and then he took growth hormones, and he's really tall now. You should mention it to your mom." And then the next day, I bring my mom in, and then Mr. Glasser mentions it to her. She gets really agitated, starts saying that she wants me to have kids one day, and that it's all like it's gonna like make me sick. And then he was like, "No, no, it's not going to make him sick." And then we were leaving, and she was again really angry. And then before we left, she's like, "No, no, shake his hand." And I go to shake his hand, and then a police officer. We go home. A police officer comes over and says, I get confused a little bit if she said this or he said it. I think he said it. Uh, Keep him out of school for the next couple days." Uh, and then 2 or 3 days later, I go back to school. I go into the office, and there's a woman, Caucasian woman, like not elderly, but roughly the same age as him, in the back. I go back there. She has like a piece of paper with like a person outline. She's like, has anyone ever touched you here or something like that?" And I'm like, "No." And he's like, "Has you and Mr. Glasser ever touched?" And I'm like, "Yeah, we shook hands." And because I said that for some reason or something like that, that was enough. And then as we were leaving, the secretary was like, "You're not going to get away with this. He's going to remember what happened one day." And then mom was like, "He's always going to love me." And then she's like, "Oh shit," or something like that. And then later on, like she tried to help me a few other times after this event. Um, and um, so yeah, I think she got removed from the facility too. But employment records. There's so much to look into. Like just there's just so much to look into. It's ridiculous.
How old are you now?
I'm 32.
32. Okay. And how you said you've been trying to talk about this since the MySpace era, so that was what, like,
It's an era now. Oh my god, I feel old.
I mean, I'm
Um,
41, so I'm right there with you.
okay.
Yeah, I'm from the MySpace days and hiding songs into people's profiles.
Oh, funny. Yeah.
But so it's been a long time that you've been trying to talk about this. During the when you spoke out about it, was the trafficking part done? Like, had you? I don't want to say escaped it, because, like you said,
Yeah.
it was ongoing and you didn't really have to escape it. But when you finally spoke up about it, was it finished? Like, had you moved out on your own and you were completely your own person, away from everybody?
When I first started speaking about it, or recently?
When you first started speaking about it.
Oh, like I mean, it like gosh, a lot of the time I was separated, but I was still affected by these people. And so while being affected, like being allowed to roam around, I'd hitchhike and tell people what was going on. I'd street perform, and then like sometimes people would talk with me. I would tell people what was going on. Other travelers, I would tell people what was going on. There's a lot of events of me of like them trying to start stuff in public, and then things lead out that way, which I'm hoping my picture and everything gets around, because there's tons of stuff that will come out about this stuff I've been talking about for years in public places, and people will be like, "Oh no, I saw that. Like I was there. The police said that they were going to take care of it." And then you're going to see that same event happen like in like so many different states with so many different people, and so stuff like that.
So, can we talk about the girl that is dead,
Yes.
and how that whole thing? Because I really have not watched all your videos. I've tried to. I really like to do interviews and be blind, so that way, like, I can react appropriately and not be fake.
Sure. Yeah. No. There's this was Crystal Rissinger from Crestone, Colorado. Uh, I first met her. I was with Andrea Perez and Dylan Salvatore. We were by the creek near the park, and me, Andrea, Dylan, and Crystal started smoking a bowl of marijuana, like a pot. Uh, I only
Did you
smoke
just
pot.
call it a pot?
A pot, yeah. I'm really I'm a nerd. I'm a nerd. I don't mean to be, but
That's okay. That was cute though.
yeah. No, before before I looked as like grotesque as I do, I was like a Boy Scout kind of. But
Well, you
so
don't look grotesque, but I hear you. I
oh,
hear you.
thank you. Yeah, no. So that's the first I met her. There's a few odd events that happened afterwards, like Andrea Perez as like when she was maybe in middle school. She had pictures of herself like posing at Perry Elementary, and Dylan Salvatore even called her out. Her boyfriend at the time was like, "This is weird. Why do you have pictures at his elementary school?" And I've been telling this story to them too. They're like, "It looks weird." And her response was, "I didn't. She didn't want to scare me and make it look like that she was like because has pictures of my elementary school of her there that she didn't want me to think that she was a part of it. But then she's been telling Dylan this whole time that she's been from Florida, and so there's oddities there. But supposedly that people have looked up her record and she actually does have records of being in Florida and from Florida, but that doesn't mean that those pictures don't exist, obviously. But then there's the last time I saw Crystal. I left Mary Meisman's property and I was walking down to what's known as the Free Box. Crystal was crying near the Crestone Brewery Company, which is where she worked. She was crying. I walked up to her, asked her if she was okay. She basically said like, just some shitty stuff was going on, and I responded like, I thought that the town's like a bunch of shitty people, so I was like, "Oh, like don't worry, like people suck. Just find some good friends, and everything will be good." And she's like something like the friends that you have, something like that, implying that like she's been hearing a lot of bad stuff about me. And then as like pretty much when that happened and concluded, Andrea Perez pulled up in her car. Crystal got in her car, and I was told that they were going to go to Saguache County, the town of Saguache, in Saguache County, to report her sexual assault, or report an assault. And some of this I found out after the fact, but they went to report this assault. Never happened. Crystal ended up missing. Andrea Perez's vehicle shortly after got totaled because it got rear-ended. Uh, Dylan Salvatore was there. He said it didn't look bad enough to total the car. Um, and then like let's see, Logan Nance, who was staying at Grace Woods' property. I was staying at Mary Meisner's property with Bonnie McAckerman. He was staying at Grace Woods' property. He lived in an 8 foot long by 8 foot wide by 8 foot deep hole for like a couple years. That he had like a wood stove in there. We hung out in there and like smoked pot. We cooked food in there. And then one day, I'm just paraphrasing a lot. One day, they say that they buried Crystal's body in Logan's hole, and I'm like what, like haha, what do you mean? And they're like, no, like you put her. They're telling me this. They're like, you put her body there. Why did you do that? We had to bury her there. And I'm like, haha, this is stupid. Like, why would you guys say this? She's still missing. And they're like, no, really, like we had to bury her. Like we had to bury her there. And I'm like, so your hole. If I go there, Logan, right now it's going to be covered up. And he's like, yeah. And I go there, and I mean like a really deep, well dug hole,
Right.
completely professionally covered up. Is just covered up the treehouse. This was like he went back there too, like he was there, and he was like now he's working on a treehouse. He's like, oh, I'm just pulling your leg. I'm just making. I just wanted to cover it up to make a treehouse. And I was like, so you in the course of like 16 hours decided to cover up your very very deep hole all by yourself, and it looks amazing, by the way. I don't think anyone could do this well. And then you're trying to say that it was for a joke, and it's just I don't know. There's more stuff later. Like he gave me a buck knife. He said stuff to me after I moved out of there, admitting to what he was done. There's also other stuff that he had said that he did. I don't know if it's true or not. He said that he was forced to take Viagra and sexually assault my dog. I don't know if that's true or not. Um, but Yeah, there's just tons of stuff, like a million things, all sorts of messed up stuff. It's really confusing. I know I kind of like tangented myself over here. So if you have any questions, ask away.
No, it's okay. And I think that we need to make a point of that is the fact that it is all over the place does allow people room to be suspicious or not believe it. But I do want to say again that you are begging people to investigate. You're begging for people that can corroborate the things that you're saying, because it is all over the place. And for some reason, there's a little echo, but um, it it is confusing. And when you have such big people, like you've mentioned in the police department, and people there covering stuff up, it really does help to have it confusing and be all over the place, because then it makes it easier for them and more difficult for you to get your story out. I'm wondering why I'm echoing all of a sudden out of you. Are your headphones really loud?
Um, I don't think so.
I don't know. There shouldn't have been any change. That's weird.
While we're in this moment, I just want to mention to everyone that's on, if you guys want to comment on the YouTube channel, we'll see the comments, and the person running the Simp Life YouTube channel that I'm doing the interview with, um, Ayla, is also willing to read some of the comments if they're useful to the conversation. So if you did want to comment, I see them too. So feel free, and I just want to mention that as there's this interjection. But yeah, sorry,
Yeah,
keep going.
no, you're good. We also have Twitch going, which it's Ayla Croft for Twitch, and
Ayla
then
Croft for Twitch. For if you guys want to go to Twitch, go to Ayla Croft.
it's also on Facebook, the Simp Life on
And then
Facebook too. So they're all connected to this one chat.
sure. So Facebook, the Simp Life also is going to be as well connected to this chat. So the Twitch, the Facebook, and the YouTube, please follow and join them. And wherever you comment on any of those, we'll be able to see here.
Oh, I need a sip of water. Okay.
Yes, same.
Before we get into more examples, I still want to know why I can hear myself. Before we get into more examples, as far as posting on TikTok and social medias, have you found a lot of people trying to gaslight you via there too?
Yeah, on Facebook groups, I joined trafficking Facebook groups, and I mentioned some of my stuff, and one of the admins was like, "Don't you know you can go into a news agency and just hop on TV? Like, why are you doing this here? You're obviously lying." And I was like, "You can go," and I was like, responded like, "You can go into like reiterate what she said," and she just blocked me. And it's like I've tried posting in 1,000 different places. Um, it's always gatekeepers, whether they're doing it intentionally or not. Like they always screw everything over, like in these admins and Facebook groups or these organizations. Not all of them. There's Free to Fly, which is a good organization which has assisted me. Um, but many of them I've called, and it's like, oh no, police wouldn't do that, or like just nonsense. Just once they hear who it is, then it becomes like, oh, like no one would ever do that.
I
Kind of
could
thing.
tell you for a fact, just from my own experience, I've never spoken publicly about this, but I remember on my 21st birthday, I decided to go to a bar and have drinks like a normal person. I got annihilated. And there was a dude there that was like, I'll give you a ride home. And I could barely speak or talk or move. But I said, okay, I guess. And I got into his car. And I remember saying I had to pee really bad. So he pulls into a Walgreens parking lot, and a cop immediately pulls in too and asks if I'm okay. And I can hear you moving that around.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. It's just distracting because I have ADHD. But the cop asked me if I'm okay, and I said, no, I want to go home. I'm not okay. And the dude, I remember him saying something like, oh, she's just drunk. Don't worry about her. And I said, I have to pee. And the cop said, just fucking go over there or something. And he's trying to like have a conversation with dude like they're like friends or something. They're not friends, but they were having a friendly chat, and I was annoying him. So I got out of the car, went behind a dumpster, I went pee. And I came back in, and the cop left, and the guy had sex with me. And I was so annihilated. There was no way for me to be able to say no or stop it from happening. And then he took me home and dropped me off. I went to the police department the next day to report this police officer, and I was gaslit. It was a female detective and a male detective, and they pretty much told me that I was lying. So I completely hear you as far as people sticking together, government officials not doing the right things. But like, I legitimately begged this officer to take me home, and he just blew me off and was like, it was boy code or bro code or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So I totally hear you there, and I do believe that it's so corrupt.
Yeah, a lot of law enforcement, which is obviously well known, that they work with informants. I mean, it's the nature of informants work with law enforcement, so that's not like unusual. But what some people might not realize is that the informants that they're working with, they also compel to commit crimes to to entrap other people. Like they'll frame someone and then just let their informant get away because their informant does what the people running this operation want them to do. And so stuff like that is just another level of um, manipulating people. And then there's just manipulating people as an officer, using what people like think you're a good person, and people going up to people and being like, hey, can you watch this guy, like he's a really bad person, like, so like don't tell him I told you this, but he's a really bad person, he's done a lot of things, so don't hurt him, but keep an eye on him for us. And that's like a way to just like incite some sort of violence or just seed information to kind of compel some sort of form of harassment, etc. um, and they do things like that all the time. And then sometimes that's also a way to target other people, is to see like someone coming up to you, an officer saying like, "Hey, I want you to do this," and they're like, "No," and it's like, "Okay, so you're not part of the team. Okay, I keep an eye on you." Um, it's just another way to target people. And again, it's not everyone in law enforcement. It's not everyone in social services, etc. But it is many people, and it is 100% gatekeepers and the people in charge. Like maybe there might be one or two that aren't, but like I mean, literally, I know that's a seems like a sarcastic statement, but the vast majority are legally culpable and aware that that their illegal things are going on and they're pushing it under the rug. Regardless of what those things are, if they're aware of those things, is irrelevant. The fact that they're putting stuff under the rug, they are legal. To my perspective, they're also legally culpable of all the stuff that they are covering up. Um,
And plus, like, I think you had mentioned somewhere else, it doesn't mean that the person doing something or involved is a bad person. They might themselves be being blackmailed or threatened in their own way and sense, whether it be job, whether it be their family, whether it be their own safety. There's a million reasons why someone would cover up or help or facilitate something, is kind of what
totally.
you're getting at.
Yeah, yeah. There's a million reasons why someone would either cover up or add to something or whatever, either because they think they're doing the right thing, or they're being told to do the wrong thing, either being threatened, or they're just so like what's the word, like groomed to just do what they're told. Like it's like raising a dog. Like you raise dogs, like they become how you raise them. This is very similar to people. Like you can nurture someone to do just about anything, and I think don't think there's anything in history that would refute that. And there are many things, modern and historical, that would uh, show like levity to my statement, like show points of agreement to what I just iterated. And
Yeah.
it's fascinating that people are so um,
Well,
I don't know, like
there was a
they,
study done. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. I think it was Harvard or something, where they found a group of people off like Craigslist, and they told them that they wanted to do this cool experiment where they split the people up into two groups. One is prisoners, one is the officers,
I've heard of this.
and yeah, and they put them in the fake room, and and I think it was within hours that the whole mindset completely changed, and the power aspect changed to where the fake prison guards were actually abusing the fake prisoners, and neither were that, but like it takes taking you out of your own element and putting you into another element, like you said, being groomed or being in a situation that is just so mind blowing that it completely can change a person within that you would never think would be able to do things like that. But they were like abusing these people, and these are just
Yeah.
normal people.
Yeah, no, very similar. Like a lot of the people that were doing this stuff to me would use like nationalism to get people that were like, "Oh, you want to help, your law enforcement, you want to help America? Like you should be doing this stuff for us." And it's multifaceted. It's not just, going to cover up trafficking. It's covering up or not just human trafficking, but like drug, weapon trafficking, also other crimes, like all sorts of other stuff, just manipulating people to set up events. And I can't say for like certain bigger things, just things that I've experienced or things that I've seen personally, but there's a lot that goes into this type of stuff. And again, I wanted to iterate like historically, like there's it's very common for governments, etc., to do criminal things to their people. Like it's not like I can't think of a nation in history, both modern and historical, that is without corruption. And I think the I one of the issues that I constantly face is is a constant fetishization of the United States government. And I imagine this is the same issue wherever country you go to, is that there's a fetishization of the nation that people are in, that they have an issue with conflating uh, citizens and Constitution with government when they're very separate. Government is an acting body that represents the Constitution and represents the people. Um, they're not the same. So the government can can skew rights and laws to perpetuate things that would otherwise be illegal. I think it's important to note that things like the Holocaust in Nazi Germany, that was horrible, but very legal within the country. Like, that does not make it right. That makes that should make people aware that governments can instill disgustingly repulsive legal laws because it's beneficial to the nation state. It's beneficial to the mentality of protecting your own and trying to skew the lines between citizens being a danger to their government or to their nation, and then trying to make them enemies, etc. There's so many different ways to go about this. I don't mean to go off on a tangent, but
No, it's okay. I can give another example. I have a very big mistrust, and I was pretty much groomed to be a victim. And I'm just my personality is very naive, and I get guilted into things. Not anymore. I'm very good at saying fuck off, but it took a lot of it took a lot of work. But I remember when I joined the military, I joined the army, and I was at Fort Leonard Wood for basic training. And as a female, it was winter time. It was about January, February when this happened. And me and my battle, we would go to the field a lot. So there was like the cattle truck, and two people always got to sit in the front, and me and her would like always work to get into that seat because it's warm
mm-hmm.
there, and it's comfortable, and I'm kind of a spoiled brat. I like to be comfortable. So there was this gentleman is a really bad word for him, is too kind of a word for him, but there was this E4 who had been in 16 years, which if you're an E4 in 16 years, you know you've been in trouble. Like you're not like, you should be way higher. So he would always be driving the truck, and I remember him asking us, and I didn't know this term, but he's like, let's do a quid pro quo. And I didn't know what that word meant, or that phrase meant at all. And I was like, well, what's that? And he's like, well, I know you girls got to be hungry and sick of this army food. How about we make a little trade? I get you guys some Burger King, and you show me your tits. And we were like, yeah, no, we're not that fucking hungry. Like, it ain't gonna happen. But we did decide, because we were told by our higher ups and our drills and everything, that if anything happens, we're a safe place to go and you can talk to us. So we did that. We had all male drill sergeants except for one. And then our first sergeant was a male as well. And so we went to the drills, we told them what had happened, and we thought that we did the right thing. And they're like, okay, we'll work on this. And all of a sudden, like, the first sergeant comes and sees me, and he's like, I just want to let you know that you're probably going to go to jail for lying. So I just want to, like, give you that heads up. If you want to keep talking about this, you're going to end up in a lot of trouble. And it terrified me. And
Threatening you, yeah.
yeah, outside of this world, I would have had a lot more balls because I had a lot more standing. But
Yeah.
inside their world, where, like, I mean, I was in their world, I was horrified. And then they had a guy from JAG come talk to me, and I thought this was like a guy that was going to protect me, a lawyer that was going to help protect me. But even him, when I asked him, I said, "Do you?" He tried to ask me what happened. I was shaking, nervous. I said, "Sir, do I have permission to talk to you like a normal person?" And he's like, "I'm an officer. You're going to talk to me like an officer." And at that moment, I knew, like, I had no standing.
Yeah.
And I remember saying, I went forward anyway, and I told everything that had happened. I wasn't that scared. And then I went to the field, and I remember seeing the female drill sergeant sitting there and the male drill sergeant, and then it was a field exercise, so there are people everywhere. But once the male drill sergeant got up out of his chair, she looked at me in my battle and she said, "Listen to me very carefully. I fucking believe you. This is bullshit. This stuff happens. I believe you. I believe you. I believe you." And she just wanted me to understand that she absolutely, like, just validate me. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, I felt so terrified and alone, and but to have her validate me was everything, especially because she had experienced it and seen it before. But I wanted to bring up that story just to also give face to the things that you're saying, because I've experienced them myself with both police officers as well as military. And I will also reiterate what you said, which was, not all people are bad. I had a beautiful officer who had my back the whole time I was growing up and had things going on with my mom, and he was just a really good man. And I did have a male drill sergeant that was really, really nice, and he was against all the bullshit of having the girls dance for them and do, like, the crazy weird shit that they just do. But I just wanted to tell those stories so that any of the listeners can understand that this isn't just coming from you. This is like, we're strangers, never met before, never actually spoke. And we both have had experiences of government officials doing completely the opposite of the right thing, to which they swore in to do the right thing.
Totally. I appreciate you putting yourself in a vulnerable position, explaining your story, just to show a common ground, or like a common scenario with what I've been experiencing. Again, I appreciate that a lot, because it's very, it's not. I don't know why it's people think this is unusual. Even outside of government groups, like social groups, people protect their own. Like, friends protect their friends. Like, businesses protect their business. Uh, I don't know. Like, it's not like a leap to me, especially if you're from. Like, I don't want to see, like I say, like, make it seem as though I'm an historical, like a history professor or something like that. But like, I like history, and I look at history, and there's everything throughout history in every country in the world that is like, okay, that's a corrupt thing that happened. Like, they made these people eunuchs. They made this group of tribe of people got killed off. Like, it's not uncommon for corruption to happen, and like the people think that, like, because we're in the year 2000 plus, we're 2021, but like, after the year 2000, everything's fine now. There's no such thing as corruption. Um, and that's just like,
Bullshit.
it's baloney. Like, even if you like, what happened, I can say, like, what happened to Native Americans, what happened to the slave trade, what happened with civil rights, what happened with women's rights. Like, these are things where the government was fighting against what was the right thing to do. They made laws making it to where people had to fight against these things in the first place. Um, there's
It
so
does take people like you and I and the other people to speak up about it and stand up for what we went through and say it over and over and over again in order until people actually are like getting it in their head that this is actually happening. Huge people with a not a platform but with power are legitimately abusing and mentally torturing and gaslighting and protecting the wrong people. This is what's happening.
totally. Yeah, it's there's the reasonings behind it. What comes to mind is like there's a lot of money, there's a lot of history, there's a lot of social reasoning behind just keeping people quiet and keeping the things going. Like social, this is like the culture, which I don't want to say like it's the American culture to do something like this, but like there's a culture, an aspect of every culture that has, gosh, how do I say this? Like the culture in which we experienced in the United States, there's aspects of it that have been twisted and manipulated so that a normal part of our nation is to perpetuate a lot of the worst crimes that existed uh, that like, exist all over the world that still happen now. Like slavery is still real. Trafficking is just another word for slavery. It's not like there's different types of slavery. So for those who aren't aware, there's many different types. There's an I'm not going to pronounce it right, but the most well-known form of slavery in the United States, it isn't like that, but it's you have no control or very little control over yourself. You have no autonomy with your finances or yourself, or very little. Um, and that these problems persist because of things that have happened historically that led up to the events now. Either things not getting the attention that they needed to solve these problems, or just people not standing up or looking into the things that are being proposed that leads to these things happening in more recent terms.
Right. So to go back to your story, are there any other examples that you wanted to give our listeners that I
Well,
haven't touched upon because I don't know everything?
sure. Well, a few things I want to say, like the biggest and easiest things to look into, and all these should be looked into, not just one of them. But like the stuff in Perry Elementary, Mr. Glasser, Clyde is, from what I understand, his first name. I recently found out, but the figuring out the details behind him leaving and figuring out the details behind where the secretary is. And then there's social services, the three staff members that got framed. One of them supposedly committed suicide, which was Ray, which was my mom framed. He would draw comic book characters of the kids. My mom and the staff that were molesting children took those drawings and drew penises on them, and then said that Ray was handing those to children, and that he later, like, to paraphrase, his like sister or mother came to the group home saying that the group home killed him, and then Luther, the person that was molesting children, said that um, I killed him because of I let him draw me as a comic book character. Um, Jimmy is another staff member at CRF that got framed, and Barrett. They told me that Luther told me that they got him. I don't know for sure if he was framed, but Jimmy got walked out in handcuffs. Um, and then yeah, so Barrett, Ray, Jimmy. There's my foster parents, which is a big story there. That's also with social services. There's me getting sent to Kearney, Nebraska, and Denver, Colorado, which is easy to look into with social services records. Um,
I think the biggest thing for the people that don't believe you, the biggest thing that they can do is actually pay for your private investigator. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Like
that's
if
what. Yeah, that's one of the biggest things to that could be of great utility is to uh, if besides looking into it themselves, but for something to be published or something to be looked into professionally, is either is to hire a private investigator, um,
but
and
you have one that you're trying to raise funds for.
yes, I do have a GoFundMe. It's on my if you go to my traffic TikTok profile or my greater global goals profile, both on TikTok. Um, on my page or whatever, you'll see a link tree, which is a link that has a bunch of links towards my Word document and many, many other things. But that also has links to my GoFundMe. Um, and
I'll definitely
yeah,
put all the links in the podcast description. But to me, like the biggest way for any non believers of your story to get answers is to go ahead and pay your GoFundMe and get that private investigator out. Because why would you, if you're lying, why would you want a private investigator?
yeah, yeah, exactly. Why would I want a private investigator if I was lying? There's also tons of messages, tons of things I've put up on my two most recent videos, detail message after message of people saying like, "Oh, I remember that," or like, "I was
Well,
there for this."
you have a whole Word document that people
Yeah.
can go in your link tree too, as well as the recordings that you
Yeah,
have.
yeah, the recordings, which I have more recordings. I'm having to be tactical with how I push stuff out, because it's not about just getting my brother and my mother. It's about so many more people, and so I'm trying. My goal is to catch people with as many lies as I can, which I've already caught my brother and my mother in a few lies. But it's my job. My goal is to catch as many people in lies as I can, so it gets as deep as it could, and it just doesn't stop at my mother and my brother, etc. But yeah, no, there's the link, the Word document that explains stuff, and but there's, and I just want to iterate again, like there's tons of people that have corroborated what I've stated, both either specifically knowing me or events happening to them in the same facilities, around the same people. Um, it's
Do
not
you
unusual.
have
Yeah.
do you have a Facebook group or something that you've started where people that have been involved with the same people of kind of like a reunion, which is it sounds terrible, but you know what I mean, like a reunion group for people to be able who have been with you or know you and have been a part of that world that you're talking about to all join in and be able to have an outlet with each other to be able to talk about these things.
I mean, I haven't set anything like that up. There's a lot of people that have come forward with pieces of information that they have. Um, I'm sure, like, there's nothing like that got set up. I've been pretty mostly focused on just the TikTok and putting stuff out there. I've gotten a lot. There's hundreds, if not thousands, of comments that I've gotten that I'm not equipped to respond to because of the volume, like the amount that there is, and I'm just like overwhelmed. And then there's a lot of planning that needs to be done, etc. And then stuff that like I'm working on some levels, but not nearly to the extent in which I used to be able to work on things, nor to the extent in which most people would consider like working on something where like what you mentioned. But to say what you said, I don't have anything like that happening. It's another. It's something that I want to happen. It's one of many things that I want to happen, but it's something that like to go through these things and to be more proficient. Re- I would need to have people like a team, a couple people, at least one other person, just like help me go through comments, like I,
100%.
I'm capable of some stuff, but I'm not nearly as capable as I used to be. Like I have to like stare at my ceiling for a couple hours a day just because I'm so anxious and I'm just like in like like trying to like make it through the day. Like this is just what you see for a little bit or whatever. Like I just kind of just like I'm just always I don't know. I just always sit and just like this like confusion kind of like mindset. Um
I've been diagnosed with PTSD myself, and my safe place is the shower, and I've got a tankless water heater. So I since I was a child, my safe place because I was abused and a lot of things had happened to me. Um, so my safe place was always the shower and just letting the water run on me and just like be away. And I'll be in there for hours if need be. But it's my little escape from the world. And I do have a lot of people that comment on my stuff or want interaction. And I'm sorry, but like at 41 years old, having 8 different messaging platforms like Telegram, WhatsApp, text message, Instagram, like all those, that's like overwhelming. You
yeah,
know what I
yeah.
mean?
Just hearing that, I'm overwhelmed. Um
So I can't even imagine what you've gone through. I think you've done a really great job trying to keep up with everything and respond to everybody that you can. You've done amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, and there's a lot of stuff, and I want to, and there's a lot of stuff I want to put together to show like just odd things that might be important. There's a lot of people that were helping me that their accounts disappeared now. There's a lot of people that were helping me that just never responded back to anything. And these things should be looked into. Like, why didn't you look into this more? Did someone contact you? Or like, where did these missing accounts go? And this is just more stuff that like just need help putting it together and stuff like that. I am overwhelmed. I am trying the best that I can, and we'll see. Once I leave to Mexico, or if most likely that's going to become a thing, if I can get assistance either before or after. Like when I'm in Mexico, I'm going to have help. I don't know much Spanish. I've been to Tijuana, but like I know, like I don't know, like Los Baños is like, well, I could like I just got to find the restroom and like eat food. Like
Yeah.
everything else is going to be like a mess.
The way I
Little,
picture your
yeah,
life is like a puzzle that you only have certain pieces to without the box to look at, and you're literally just trying to find people to help fill in those pieces. You know what I
totally.
mean? To make a complete. So when people are like, well, you're kind of all over the place. Well, I have this puzzle that I'm supposed to make, and I only have these specific pieces. And so, yeah, it is sporadic, and I do need the other pieces in order to form something that I could be like, here you go.
Yeah, totally. I mean, the stuff that I've already put up, I think is interesting enough. Like these recordings with Teresa Peliquin in Crestone, Colorado. I was in Oregon at that time. My mom's trying to say that she was my therapist. She is a therapist. She is someone that I called specifically because I found out she was a that because I knew she was a therapist, and I specifically called her where I was in Oregon to set up this conversation to get more information out and to also express my emotions and everything because I'm always expressing my emotions everywhere I go.
Yeah.
Uh, but the things how they're trying to portray it is silly because in the conversation in and of itself, she specifically mentions multiple times that she thinks the sheriffs are 100%. She uses this term specifically. I believe the sheriffs are 100% responsible for what happened to Crystal. She specifically mentions one of the sheriff's names. I can't remember which one she mentions, but she specifically mentions one of their names. Um, that's and then like, why would she, as a therapist, not get paid to speak? Why would she speak to me legally on the job? There's a lot of like questions to get answered. You could say, well, this maybe she did this because of this, but then like just dig these questions in, like ask more questions about more questions. Me too. Ask me tough questions. There's a few things that I've said that I won't talk about. Like most things right now, I'll talk about everything, but for right now, anything after 2017 is very difficult. I can mention things like my face being tattooed against my will, etc. But to explain the whole thing, it just needs
Yeah.
more
And
time.
definitely with this podcast, I didn't bring you on to go verbatim over every single piece. It was more about talking about being gaslit and the effect of that and the struggle that you're going through and stuff like that. So I do urge listeners to once this podcast is up to go to the link tree and look at those recordings and look at the writings. I know that we have a lot of people on the internet who love investigating and doing things. So maybe even that would help if there's anybody out there that has a lot of time on their hands and is just like an internet like genius and can like figure things out and put pieces together and help you out or reach out to you. I know you also have your email address on your TikTok, which is Kevin J Mosley at or Kevin J Mosley 1988, right?
Perfect.
At
Yahoo.com.
yahoo.com. I didn't want to mess that up. Yeah. And I'm going to put that in the description as well because, like you said, you are only one person and you are dealing with trauma and having to try to heal yourself as well as keep yourself physically safe, as well as try to investigate, as well as respond to people and do it and create content to talk about your story. So you have a lot on your plate. And if I know for myself, if I had assistants and a manager and everything helping me, I could do what I'm meant to do way fucking better.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
But
And
when
that's
you're, go ahead.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing. I've had people offer up various levels of help, and then like some of these, I know I want to say a percentage is because I've probably didn't respond quick enough, but there is a percentage that makes me concerned that something is obstructing their willingness to assist me because like we're talking and then everything's set and ready and then it just doesn't happen. It's not happened every time. There's a few people that I'm working with for certain things. Uh, but it's a lot there's just a lot of oddities, but yeah, as much help as I can get with the most simple stuff, like organizing stuff, organizing comments, responding to I have like 10,700 comments on one video. And
Jeez.
I know a lot of them are like, "Good job, we believe you, good luck, you're a dumbass." Like, I know there's, like, I know there's a lot of that stuff, but there's a lot of, like, "Oh, like, I remember this event, this happened here," or "I have a similar situation that happened to me in these places." And even though it's not directly, like, say it's like that second one, I have a similar situation that happened in these places. It may not be directly connected with my story or my people, but there are threads of information that are connected, and I think it's really important to or to get these people, organize these people in categories of the type of information that they have, and assist these people in their problems, either connected to a larger situation or individually, or maybe they have some of their information secondhand, and just recording that information to potentially use in the future for other people. I think is like incredibly important. Um, and there's so I have an opportunity I feel right now, and I feel like I'm squandering part of it, not because of my own willingness, but more because of my physical circumstances, like my ability to uh, take on the task of responding to on just one video again 10,700 comments, let alone thousands of other comments, and then also like me try having to. I'm not a writer at all, but then to compose myself and articulate myself well enough while and like typing like emails to people in a way that makes them compelled to respond back and not think that I'm just like a mess, because I am a mess, and I'm just like I articulate myself far better than I write to people.
And that
Uh,
is why you are kind of the perfect victim, and why I was the perfect victim is because people target messes or potential messes because it's so easy to not believe that person or to blow them off or to just think that they aren't worthy of being listened to, and that's frustrating in itself.
totally. Yeah, it's. I mean, to set someone up into a situation where they can't help themselves is just one of many goals. It's like again, my mom put me in special ed. I have comments of people stating like, "Oh, hey, I remember you." I remember like one person recently was like, "I remember when you got put in special ed. I thought it was really strange." And there's many people that try to get me out of special ed because it wasn't a good spot, and it was my mom's just goal. And that was like, she whipped my hands. I have scars on my hands, on my fingers from my mom, like, "Oh, don't use your left hand." And then she whipped my hands, and I use my other hand, and she'd be like, "Oh, don't use your like that hand." And she whipped my hands, like, "Oh, I didn't know which one was which." Like she's like giggling, like thinking it's like the most, like the funniest thing. Like I don't know what. At the same time, she was robbing other kids. She was having kids play Monopoly at our house, and she was having kids put in real money. And then if me or my brother or my mom won her money, um, did that to a few
Jeez.
kids. Valley Circle, Huntington Beach, California. Just shit like that. And I just mentioned this is my PTSD tangent. I was getting my hands whipped at the same table where we would play Monopoly. And so when I mentioned that story, I was doing homework and my hands were getting whipped. I was like, "Oh, the same table where she was doing the Monopoly thing." And this is also the same apartment where she made a Power Rangers cake, planned it to be to where it was the day I had a substitute teacher in 5th grade, told me to take it to school with me and feed it to as many kids as I could, like, give it away. A bunch of kids got sick. Supposedly one girl died. I don't know if that's true. The substitute teacher got arrested because a law enforcement officer came over and said something like, "Do you think he could have cooked it or something?" And she's like, "No, but he looks like he's on heroin or something." And he's like, "How did you think he got it or something?" And she was like, "I don't see how he could have gotten it himself." and then she got arrested, and then Miss Kelly, the principal, walked in and was the teacher for the rest of the day. Um, shit like that, like shit like that. Like my Miss Bernizer, my second grade teacher, got told that she needed to retire, and she was like, I don't want to retire. Um, like I don't know.
I just wish I could give you a hug.
I don't think air hug, cyber hug.
I know, right? Yeah, you're just going through so much. I am just so impressed with you. I really am. I can't even imagine just the trauma that I've been through, but it's not ongoing, and I'm not in any danger, and I'm still having to like deal with it. And then just it's tough. It's really tough, and I hope people give you a little bit of a break and realize that you are a human being. You're not a robot. This isn't like your job.
Yeah.
Like you weren't trained for this. You were trained to fail pretty much, and you're coming out of it like F you. I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna do something.
Trying to, yeah, most certainly trying to. And one thing I want to make a point to mention to everyone that's listening or that would listen is don't like ask me is questions, ask me tough questions, ask me details. Ask the people that I'm mentioning just any details. When's the first time you remember meeting Kevin Mosley? Like me. When the first time do they remember meeting me? What's the last thing they remember? What is the event like? Just ask like just common basic questions just to start the process of getting them to open up and then getting details and details and to see where some people say stuff that doesn't correlate with what other people say. And then like there's so much to do. There's so many people to ask. I'm not the only person. Christos P. Mitchell, Scott Millian, Jessica Mitchell, who now goes by Jessica Inslee, um, Caitlin Gillette, my brother Christian Scott Mosley or Chris Mosley. My brother wasn't allowed to keep his full first name because he wasn't Christian enough, and so they made my brother change his name from Christian to Chris. Uh, just a random piece of information, nothing important, but there's so many people to ask about questions about like what was going on.
That's a great point, actually, because, like you said, the more people are asked questions, the more information comes out, whether or not it does correlate. But it is
Yeah,
more you're wanting and begging for more information
yeah,
is
totally.
is the goal here.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Just like the a lot of people won't ask questions about details, and so just like get people that I've mentioned so far that are people are looking into some stuff. Just get them to answer basic questions. What's the very first memory you have of your brother? What's the very last memory you have? Like, surely you remember something. Like, what's the only thing you remember? What's one thing you remember in this apartment? Like, does Joe and Willie exist? Where are they? Like,
Yeah.
send me their stuff. I'll contact them, and you don't have to be the middleman, kind of thing.
Yeah. Do you have one of those Word documents that people can edit? You know what I mean?
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, because that way people can add information and kind of piece together. You know what I mean? Put
Yeah,
stuff together. I've never made one of them, but I've seen them, and they seem useful.
I was thinking that seems like a good idea. The only problematic aspect of that is if someone who could edit it could that is benevolent.
I don't know
Uh,
words,
uh,
but
I was
I
thinking
know what you're trying to say.
Yeah, well, no, I think benevolent's good. I think malevolent is the word I'm looking for. So if anyone who is following me that is malevolent that wants to sabotage, let's say that edited Word
Yeah,
document, theoretically they could edit it. And so that's my only thing that I'm thinking
yeah,
of. Like, oh,
that's true.
that could be a problem. That could be subjugated in a few ways, like copying, going in and once or twice a day and copying the stuff that's already there and saving it to a different file. So that's a way to litigate that issue. But yeah, I mean, there's many things that can be done to get people to communicate, to get more people in, to get more questions asked, to get more evidence pushed forward, and yeah, the important thing is that we just push for those answers, those situations to come forth. Don't get stopped or don't get stuck up on one awkward thing or one thing that just like, oh, this seems unusual. Like I had this recording up for the longest time. I didn't realize I didn't listen to them because they gave me really bad PTSD. But like I was being very heavily drugged at this point in time, and I was not even using. proper sentences. I was like saying things that made no sense. I was using words in places where I wasn't meaning to use words, and like I was very mumbling. Like I was like Adrian,
Yeah.
like it was just
Heavy
like
tongue.
Rocky Balboa reference. And it's just yeah, it was the worst. It was the worst. And so that like stuff like that is embarrassing on my end. But that doesn't mean anything. It means I was made to look like an ass. And I kind of
Yeah.
made, and then I made myself look like a little bit of an ass on my own end. But that doesn't mean anything in my history. It doesn't isn't legitimate. It doesn't mean just because someone can skew something to make it look a certain way that everything isn't legitimate. There's so much to look into just on the basics of what I say, let alone everything else of what I say, that we don't have to take my word for any of this. Um,
How much are you needing for the investigator?
Well, there's different. There's different. I've heard. I gotten different things from different people. The highest I gotten was $15,000, which is by far the highest. Everyone else was like a couple thousand to 5,000, and it depends on how long it goes. Different. I put up there 5,000 just as a start. Because different states have different criterias and laws for private investigators, and so a private investigator in Tennessee can't work in Colorado unless they're licensed or whatever, familiar with the laws in each state. And so I'm having to hire different private investigators for different areas. I'm also trying to think to be as strategic as possible on it as I could, in the sense that getting people involved that are private investigators that I feel most comfortable with. And
Yeah,
so that lessens the like who I could go through, and that might rise or lower costs. But really, the highest thing to cost is the amount of private investigators that I would have to have for states like Colorado, New Mexico, North Carolina, Massachusetts, upstate New York, California, Oregon, Washington, Alaska. Did I ever say Colorado? Colorado. um, I
man.
mean, I can piece it into pieces. Like I would start with probably Colorado and California, if I wanted to do it one way. But all these are important. All these matter and need to be looked into.
Absolutely. So, I do. We do need to get wrapping this up a little bit. Somehow we went an hour and 45 minutes already. And again, I didn't bring you on to go through each because we can go either on your TikTok, like you said, and hear evidence and individual videos of specific events. We've got your link tree, which I'm going to again put in the description. That's going to have the Word document of things organized, right? I believe when I looked at it, it was little bits just brought down each of examples that of evidence that you have, and then you've got the recordings. But is there anything else that you wanted to add for our listeners?
Um,
We've done a lot.
yeah, yeah. No, I'm thinking. I guess to me, just reiterating the different accounts that I have, the GoFundMe, the just the
Can you tell
idea.
us your
Oh,
TikTok accounts? Can you spell them out for
sure.
us?
The first one is Trafficked TikTok, and that's TraffickedTictoc. And then there's Greater Global Goals, which is GreaterGlobals.
It's the same face I make when I try to spell.
Yeah, I'm like, oh shit. Like,
and
I was,
and
I was
those
like, I
are
need
what
a
you
few
use
more.
the most, right?
Yeah, those are the ones I use. I have many, many other TikTok accounts, but those are the ones I use the most. I also have an important if you go to my link tree on either of my accounts, many of my other social medias will pop up. Again, there's a lot of stuff up that I don't have up because I'm using uh, what people say against them. I'm trying to get other people to come forward with their stories first to catch them in lies, and I've already already pushed out enough, I think, to show that I'm not lying, with many people corroborating what I'm saying, recordings corroborating inappropriate interactions with law enforcement in the Crystal Rishinger case. Um, and so, yeah, I would just iterate like go to the social media accounts, look up everything, support my GoFundMe if you can, which is for private investigators. If you want to support me individually for my funds, like getting out of the country, that's for my Cash App and PayPal. Um, and then
What's your Cash App and PayPal? You don't have to spell it unless if it's difficult. Is it in your link tree?
it is in my link tree. I want to say it just so it's out there. I'll feel like a
Yeah.
butthead if I don't. So I'm looking it up real quick. But
Oh, take your
y-
time. We have an editor.
oh, cool, cool. Yeah, there's just a lot to say. Let me see. Here's my PayPal. Uh, it's at Pete Bog, which is PEATBOG, and then uh $ Kevin James Mosley for the Cash App. But again, those are for to help me finances for getting out of the country. If you want to help out specifically with the GoFundMe for private investigators or the finances for private investigators and legal and more of the legal aspect side of it, it would be my GoFundMe. Um, and then yeah, I guess I just want to iterate like there's no reason to not look into stuff. I'm not saying that people need to be like taken to the guillotine for because of what I say. Like I'm saying that people need to look into stuff and defer after everything's fully looked into. People need to stop making excuses saying like, well, if this was real, law enforcement would have looked into it. If this wasn't real, law enforcement would have arrested me. Like, you can't make claims that specific people are doing things to you without people looking into it and pressing legal charges and people making short excuses is ridiculous. But yeah, I would just say I would put pressure on people to try and get everyone that I've mentioned, specifically my brother, my mother, to just speak of this just the most basic facts and just see what they say and go from there. I want to say like support the Simple Life or the Simp Life. I'm sorry, the Simp
It's
Life
okay.
podcast.
Everybody thinks it's the simple life, and I think that's adorable. Do you know? You
Uh,
know what a simp is, right?
I I I I don't like. I know it's like a term used for like. I have an idea of what it is. I don't know for sure. I'm not very into lingo, especially like when I got on TikTok. There's like all these terms I've never heard of. Like
Yep.
I didn't even know YT was a as a acronym for white people, and I thought it was for YouTube. And then
Oh, it's not? Okay.
yeah, see that's I mean see I don't even know. I could be wrong. I could. This
No,
is like
you're probably right.
yeah.
I thought Netflix and chill was actually like Netflix and like chilling, but
It's
that's
not. Yeah, yeah.
no.
I don't. Yeah, I was like, I feel like I'm 50 right now. I'm like, I'm scared of everyone younger than me. Like, I don't know these phrases essentially.
Oh my gosh.
Um, but yeah, so yeah, I mean, I don't want to keep you too much longer. I'm just trying to make sure that there's nothing important. I mean, again, just look into everything I've mentioned. The most important things to look into, the easiest things to look into is foster family, me being sent to Kearney, Nebraska, and Denver, Colorado, while I was in social services to be used. A bunch of stuff happened with my foster family being manipulated. They did nothing wrong. Um, uh, there's issues in CRF group homes and Orangewood group homes, which have corroborating messages from other people, either that specifically knew me and speak to specific events that has happened to me and this person, or events that have happened to other people in these group homes, like a little girl getting impregnated by a staff member, is what a comment of what someone else left from CRF, mentioning staff members I have yet to mention that did work there, like Leroy, who is another very good person. So there's, look into those things. The the stuff at Perry Elementary with Mr. Glasser. Um, I mean, look into everything, but those are the easiest things to look into. I feel um, push for questioning again everyone that I've mentioned, support uh, the organizations that I've mentioned
Yeah.
here, and I want to mention Free to Fly, which was another organization that's been one of the few that have stepped up to assist me without much cooperation. They're not like condemning anyone, but they're like believers first, and that's. And I don't necessarily want anyone to believe me, but as an organization, you should. It's a good way to start. But as an individual, I understand skepticism. But I wanted to mention, yeah, the Simp Life and Free to Fly. Support them, and then gosh, yeah, there's just so much. There's so much. I feel horrible if I'm missing something.
Oh,
Um,
the podcast will be on for 20 years, I'm sure.
yeah. So
So I would definitely love to have you on again for
Totally. If you feel you have more questions in the future at any point in time, I mean, for the foreseeable future, uh, feel free to shoot me as many messages as you can to get my attention. And until I respond like yes, ha, or nah, like you'll. I'm happy to come back on and do this again.
Yeah, just to let you know what a simp is.
Oh gosh.
A generation ago, simp was a very derogatory term towards people that stuck up for people.
Oh.
Usually, it was a guy that would. There would be. I was a video gamer. I'm 41, so I've been gaming on Twitch since like I think 2013, and so I was considered a thought, which is a chick that was cute online. And then there would be guys incels that would talk shit to me or other girls, and then you have the simps that were called simps because they'd be like, hey, don't talk to her like that, or do kind things. So then this generation, this younger generation, has changed it around, which is what I'm trying to do with the name the Simp Life, which is change it around to simping for somebody is a good thing. Like
Oh,
I
okay.
would simp for my friend, I would simp for my boyfriend, we simp for each other all the time, and
Okay.
it's
That
a
is
term
not
of
what I, yeah.
endearment.
Cool. Okay. That's not, I thought simp was like a very sexualized term, like sipping someone up. I don't know.
Oh.
Like, I was like, I just don't, like, in my back of my mind, I'm like, what does this mean? This is why I feel like I'm 80 or like really like, I'm just too
We
old for
are.
society. I'm just like, I cannot keep up.
It looks like I
Um,
have gray hair too.
oh yeah. No, yeah. You look fine. You look fine. I could just imagine that, like, I just gosh, when I'm actually like 80, I'm just gonna live in a cave. Like I'm not gonna be able to keep up with what anyone's saying nowadays, or then. But yeah,
Yeah.
no, for that most definitely. Like if you want to have me on again, please do. I'm happy to do this as much as necessary for both my benefit and your show's benefit. Um,
Yeah, if you have some if there's like something that has happened that you want to speak out, not like small things, but if there's a turn of events or something has happened, like absolutely, I would love to have the platform open to you, because that's what this whole podcast is for. It's trying to help people that are being gaslit, being bullied, being abused, especially men, because there isn't a voice for men right now. There's
yeah.
so much voice for women, but there is nothing for men.
Agreed, and I want to say that I agree that there's not a voice for men, but I also want to agree that that the voices that are for women, there are a lot of shortcomings and a lot of issues that women have to face. I'm sure you know, obviously, with the story that you explained, and I just want to
Yeah,
show like common ground that though there are different levels of resources for men and women, we're both in the same boat in the sense that like we're being put in this position because of these underlining issues
yeah,
that could be solved. They just need the attention and the people working towards fixing this stuff. And by people, I mean like the people listening, the people watching this stuff, because we can't expect the people that allowed this to happen, that have pushed this stuff forward and swept the stuff under the rug, to change it just because we ask please. And if they do change it, I think we should expect that it's being changed into something else that is also bad, because I'm not going to expect people that have done horrible things to then do something good because we ask them now. They already know what they're
right.
doing. They already know what's wrong. And so
Yeah,
yeah, again, the problems that men and women are facing with sexual assault, there might be different levels of resources, but we're in the same boat in the sense that we have the same battles with ending this issue, and even a lot with just even finding safe places to discuss ourselves,
a hundred
our
percent.
situations.
I mean,
Uh,
I'll throw out a stat. 1.5 million cases of domestic violence are reported by women each year, and 850,000 cases by men each year. Which I truly believe that the numbers are more equal, because men are shamed into not admitting to it, or they're told like, "What, you're a fucking man, like get over it."
yeah,
But there are no shelters for men. There's no hotline specific to men, and there are to women, and you're right in the sense that we do need to address the fact that like it is both sexes. But the reason why I have my platform is because right now there are no resources for men, and honestly I don't think a lot of people realize how often men are trafficked, because we think of it as a female thing. And having you on does open up the light to people that it does happen to both genders. And hopefully it'll allow and facilitate other males to come forward and talk about it too, and understand that they're not alone. And that's important. That's really, for society in itself, is stupid important to make sure that the males do understand that this does happen and that they aren't alone in this, and that even if they reach out to you and just say, you know what, I've been there too, and just that being validated is so important for us, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a part of it's. I mean, for me, it's partly just being validated is nice, but really having the opportunity to potentially solve the issue, like assistance going to journalists, assistance going to law enforcement or changing laws, assistance with these things is really important because one issue that I personally have with some of the organizations that I've come across is just their willingness to sweep it under the rug if, like, they help me as long as I keep quiet, which is just like a requirement of a lot of places. Like they'll use like, oh, we don't want to terrify the other people around, and so just don't speak about it. I'm like, how do we stop people from doing it? And it's like, well, you don't. And it's like, that seems either intentional or not. That just seems like it's helping
Right.
the situation become worse.
Yeah.
I know there's different circumstances for different people. I do feel it's the majority's responsibility to speak out against this stuff, because it's not just happened to you. It's happening to as people are keeping quiet. It's happening to people right now that are both above the legal age and under the legal age that are being forced to do things that they don't want to have happen to them. And someone's reasoning of like, it happened to me, and so I'm scared. For me as a victim and as someone who knows that there's other victims, from the other victims' perspective, I just think it's too much to um to ask someone who's going through it to endure people who are victims keeping quiet. And I think it builds a like culture of keeping quiet because it's expected now that we do keep quiet, because now it's even beneficial that we keep quiet when it's just not. It's very clearly not for anyone. I think I implore anyone over the age of 18 that has had any sort of thing happen to them, to at least speak out about it and then try to be as detailed as possible. Um,
I agree. That's the
Person,
only way changes are going to be made.
100%, 100%. Um, but yeah, I guess let's see. I'm thinking like GoFundMe, TikTok. Um, yeah, I mean, is there any other like questions you have? Any close up questions, or am I rushing too much, or what's
No, you're
your
fine. I have to pee, but I think
ditto?
no. Yeah,
I'm
we've
waiting for
got
that too.
about
I'm like, sorry.
no, you're fine. This is live and it's all going to be edited out for the podcast, but at least the live people watching get to laugh about it. No, but we've been going for about 2 hours, so I'm assuming that we're going to have a two-parter. I think we've really touched on everything that we could that's going to be important. I'm absolutely going to have your link tree in every description. I already have it in the description of all the live feeds as well. So even like right now on YouTube, in the description, it's got your link tree, so people can just click on it. Or
Thank you.
I don't know how Twitch works, but I know Facebook also. It's in the description, and so we've got that going, and people could be clicking on it now. Once we get it posted, I'll send you everything you need. I'll send you the audio and video,
Thank you.
so you can use it as you want. And
I was
I,
just probably just gonna throw it all on my YouTube, just
yeah,
like how it comes. Um, yeah, no, I guess yeah, that's all. That's what I'm gonna do. And then with your stuff, I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry,
no, you're
but
fine.
yeah, I appreciate the links and everything and throwing all that out there. Do you know how long it will take so I can tell my viewers and so everyone watching, etc. Um, like we end today on the 23rd. How long does it take for you to put your edited story out?
So we're
Um,
gonna post the. I'm gonna send once we're done, I'm going to download the audio files and the video and everything. I make a Dropbox for my editor, which I'll also give you that stuff. So the video that we've just done, you can use right away, but the podcast that's edited will be published on Thursday.
Thursday. Okay.
Yeah, and I'll give you. I think I sent you the link in the email. If I didn't, to the podcast, I'll go ahead and do that, and then I'll give you the individual link to your specific episode. Because
Perfect.
right now it would just be the link to the whole podcast, but I'll make sure you've got everything. As far as the video that we do today, once I get it downloaded, you should have it probably tonight.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
absolutely.
Awesome. Then, yeah, I guess if there's nothing that I'm missing, again, if there's any other questions that you have, let me know. For the reasons that we both discussed, I kind of want to get out of here for a couple seconds.
No, but yeah, we'll just go ahead and end the live stream. Let me see. I think we're going to still be in chat once I end it. So I'll go ahead and end the broadcast now. I do want to say thank you for being on the show, and I do appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So I'm going to end broadcast now. Let's see.